WATD Fantasy Draft. We are coming down to the wire here. Uh, our rankings are really rounding into form. We're getting a sense of who is in, who is out, who's got some work left to do in the last couple of weeks of the season, and we've got our eyes on a bunch of guys that need to have big games for their teams coming down the stretch here. Quinn Kelly, Johnny Work, Brendan Connolly, and boys, it's hard to believe, but we are just 2 short weeks away from the start of the playoffs. Everything is winding into form. So we've got a pretty big draft ahead of us. And with that, let's just jump right into it here. No wasted breath. Brendan's going to be picking first this week. I'm second. Johnny is third. So I'll let you, Brendan, hop right up to the podium and kick this draft off.
I think I'm going to start with a running back, and I'm going to go with Daniel Alade out of Mashpee. I think he has a good matchup this week going up against Hull, who has been struggling on the season to this point. And I feel like this is a game where Mashpee's just going to run the ball, get the running backs involved, and I don't think you can go wrong there.
No, not at all. They've got, two good backs between Alade and Andrade, and they're, I mean, they've been moving the ball exceptionally well on the ground throughout the season. And I think as they come down the stretch here, um, they're going to need big results, I feel like, kind of to solidify their position within the power rankings. We got to see him a couple of weeks ago in person. Really talented runner, a lot of good speed. So I think really, really good pick and a worthy 1-1, Brendan. All right, I am going to go to the quarterback room, and I'm going to go with a guy that I know it's been a struggle this season. I think this is probably their last regular season chance for a win, but I've loved what I've seen from him personally. Feel like he's in the box score quite a bit. I'm going to go with Jack Martin, quarterback out of Whitman Hanson. I just think they're, you know, they're due for one. They got a great matchup coming up against Silver Lake. I think this should be a really fun game. And Jack's been throwing a bunch of touchdown passes, and so I think you're gonna get to see a quarterback that's gonna have the freedom to play with a little bit of reckless abandon here in this game. And I'd like to see him go out and get some stuff done. All right, Johnny.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to a team that is absolutely buzzing this year through the schedule. They've been really fun to watch. I'm gonna go Ethan O'Connell from Archie's. I think that's a good matchup that they've got with Stang. They got a couple good running backs over there, so I think you could pick a couple of them. But I'm gonna go with Ethan, and that's a team that's really fun to watch right now. I mean, obviously Hudson Garrity under center, but they've got what's really helped him make the transition is all the weapons around him and kind of the buy-in that that program has received. And they've got some crisp jerseys, and they're just really fun to watch.
Yeah, that they are. Ethan had a couple of monster games early in the season. I feel like he's been relatively quiet here coming down the stretch. But this one feels like not a game that they're going to look past, but this one feels like a pretty certain result for them. And then them trying to get to 8-0 is going to kind of come down to the wire against Cathedral. And mind you, they're in an interesting spot as well, I feel like, where they're kind of fighting towards the top of the D5 rankings. And a top four seed is certainly in play for them. And, for them to kind of guarantee home field throughout the first couple legs of the playoffs would be monster for them, in what is really one of the great seasons in recent memory for Archie's. So fantastic. All right, Brendan, round two.
I think I'm going to go quarterback. I'm just going to go to the other side of that Silver Lake Whitman Hanson matchup. I'm going to go with Sean Barry. I feel like this is a week where one of these teams has to win, of course, and the Battle of Route 27, I feel like it could be a shootout for all we know. And I think we'll see some offensive numbers from both quarterbacks.
Yeah, this is a guy coming into the season that I think you were hoping to see kind of pop off. A guy that has starting experience, came in with starting experience, another year under center. I think it's been a rough couple of weeks here for Silver Lake, and getting into a competitive game with Whitman Hanson, I think going to bring out the best on kind of both sides of that ledger. So hopefully a big one for Sean Barry. All right, that brings it around to me. I'm going to go into the running back room as well. And I'm going to go with a guy, I got to give a little shine to a freshman, PJ Ravecchio for Hull. You started to see his name popping up all over. It has not been the greatest season for Hull. Obviously, they've kind of struggled this year, but a guy that hopefully that's a program kind of building around for the future. They've, you know, by virtue of being a smaller program, you're going to have younger guys that are going to get some touches. Final week of the season for them. Tough matchup, certainly going up against Mashpee, but hopefully one where they're able to get things rolling a little bit. And so, if nothing else, it's the final regular season week. They're not going to be in the playoffs, so he's going to be off the board starting next week. So I'd like to give a little shine to a freshman who's had a fantastic start to his high school career. All right, Johnny.
I'm going to go to a team that has had a really good start. I'm going to go running back as well. I guess I'll just close out that room right away. I'm going to go Tommy Polidori from West Bridgewater. I think they're just a really fun team. Obviously, they're anchored by Ty Holmes, who is just an absolute dog, but Polidori in his own right is a tremendous back. He catches a little bit out of the backfield. He's gotten a couple TDs, so he's a crucial part of that team as well. So, I think he's going to need to step up and if they're going to continue the ways that they've been going, they're going to need everyone to step up and 5-1's a great start for them. And, they're facing a Bourne team who's also 5-1. So it's kind of an interesting matchup, and they're going to need all hands on deck for that one.
And I think even beyond just needing the all hands on deck, like just with the volume that they've been scoring this season. Yeah, I mean, Ty Holmes is the guy. He's the featured guy there. But Tommy has been in the score sheet just about every week as well. It feels like two touchdown game left and right, just because they have been putting up so many points on the board all season long. This is going to be a tough matchup for them, certainly. But Tommy was well overdue to get some shine on the WATD Fantasy Draft. All right, round three, Brennan.
I think I'm going to close out my running back room, and I'm going to go with Alan Norsika out of Randolph. I feel like this is a good game for them as well. Carver's a tough matchup, but I feel like just Randolph has been running roughshod through every opponent they've faced to this point, and they're going to get their running backs involved.
This is this is very much in the same vein to me as Tommy Polidori, where Allen is not the feature guy, right? He's behind Mekhi White, who kind of grabs all the headlines. But week in and week out, his team is putting up a ton of points, and he's finding his way into the score sheet, into the box scores, and he's getting himself touchdowns left and right. And again, and furthering that along, a guy that probably could have came off the board many weeks ago. I think it's a great pick, Brendan. I think Allen's had a fantastic season for them. I think this is going to be a big game against Carver, a chance to essentially, a chance to really put a league rival's backs against the wall as far as making it into the playoffs. So, yeah, I think that's a good pick, Brendan. All right, that'll bring it around to me, and I am going to close out my running back room as well, I think. Uh, I'm going to go with a guy that we saw last week. Hanover decided they were going to start doing something a little bit different. We saw them add in this wildcat wrinkle, and running that for them was Brendan Sacco. I'm going to go with Brendan Sacco. He was really good against Plymouth South. Obviously, it was still Sebastian Brown in the aerial attack that kind of went off and won them that game, but it started with Hanover showing Plymouth South a different look with Brendan Sacco running the Wildcat and kind of getting that offense going that was maybe not kind of all there in the first half. And then the second half obviously took off thanks to that. So, kind of the number two, or maybe more aptly a 1B there in Hanover. I like their chances to have a big game against Quincy as they need to make one more, I think, big statement to kind of solidify their position in D5 before a very tough matchup against Situate. All right, Johnny.
I am going to go to a wide receiver here. This is a team that kind of needs to get right. Has been riding the highs and the lows, but is on a little bit of a skid after a big win. I am going to go with Shane McDonald from Plymouth South. I think this is a get right game for them. Pembroke is no easy feat. I mean, they sit at 2-4. They're 0-3 in the league, but they play teams tight. We saw them weeks ago at Hanover put up 40. They might have scored all the points they had in the tank. They have since put up zero in back-to-back weeks, and a
Yeah.
7-0 loss for the team that we saw at Hanover is really shocking. So they're reeling. Plymouth South has lost two after beating Situate. So this feels like a big one for Plymouth South, a big one for both teams, quite frankly, to kind of right the ship. But I think they're going to need Shane to play a key role in that.
I know that speaking of Pembroke, I know that you came off the Hanover week with a game against Situate, so very, very tough. But it is shocking that they have not put anything up on the board since a 40-point game against Hanover. That said, that's a team that is reeling, a team that is backs against the wall. And for Plymouth South, they're kind of in a similar position, but they have a little bit more in front of them. Like they're right in it. I think they're seven right now in D3. They need to get things back in order. Shane McDonald had the critical catch for them, the game winner against Situate. I think he helps them out. He looked pretty good on Friday night, and hopefully he's got a little in the tank. All right, Brendan, round four.
Now, I don't know if this guy went off the board when I was gone for 2 seconds last round, but this was a guy I'm kind of surprised he hasn't come off the board yet from Situate, Miller Shea. I needed a wideout, and he has been one of their most explosive ones to this point in the season. I feel like they're going to air the ball out a little bit in this game against North Quincy, trying to build upon last week's big win over Quincy. That was kind of very shocking in a lot of ways. Quincy was rolling 5-0. They had knocked off some good teams, and Situate just defended their home turf, and they did so convincingly. And I feel like Miller Shea has a chance to put up some numbers this week.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking to think that our reigning Bill Wilhelm Award winner, obviously not still at Situate High School, but was a Situate receiver. This is the first Situate receiver to come off the board this season. They definitely should have seen at least some, one of them come off before now. But Miller's had a great season, and you just got Bill Vosa's favorite player in the area on your board. So there you go. All right, I got to dip into the wide receiver room as well, and I am gonna do so. I am gonna jump into. I'm gonna go into that Silver Lake matchup as well. I know Brendan, you've dipped your toe in there. I'm gonna go with Jake Lofstrom, a guy that we kind of saw burst onto the scene last year and I think the year prior. On the hardwood, fantastic basketball player for Silver Lake. He's been really good. He's a big, tall, lanky target for Sean Barry. A lot of speed on the outside. I love what he can do there. I think a good chance. He's a matchup problem, and I think a good chance for him to have a big game against Whitman Hanson. So I'm going to take my first wide receiver with Jake Lofstrom out of Silver Lake. All right, Johnny.
I'm gonna go wide receiver again. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go Tim Mills from Weymouth. That's a team that has had a lot to think about over the bye week after what is frankly an unacceptable loss, a shocking loss in which they only put up 6 points to Brockton, coming off a 5-0 start. Well, they're as perfect of a get right game as they could get would be 0-6 Needham here. So I think they're just going to look to put up a lot of points to put whatever that was in Brockton in the past. And Tim's obviously a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. You honestly, they're very fortunate in some ways to have gotten the bye after the Brockton game, so that didn't kind of snowball on them. On the other hand, it must have been kind of a miserable couple of weeks of practice. Brennan, I got to bring you in here because and now that you're working the notebook, this is a little bit out of our area, so maybe you'll know better. But what the hell happened to Needham? I think this makes like last year even crazier being this Division 1 public to get to the Super Bowl, and they played Severian tight, and then there's nothing there for them this year.
They lost a lot of key seniors from last year, and I think the most noteworthy one was Aiden Williams, who
Hmm.
went on to play at, I think, Lafayette.
I
I'm
think
trying
that's
to
right.
think if
Yeah,
that's,
Dom
I think
Patriot League
that's
for
right.
sure.
But he was a star. Like that was a huge difference maker for them. And I think they lost a few key linemen as well, and that's why they were able to have such success. They grinded teams out very similar to kind of like Randolph does with their running game.
Mm.
And from our area, and maybe another team on the North Shore like Gloucester, they just ran teams over and grinded the clock out. And you saw it in the playoffs this
Yeah.
time around. they've had none of that. They have no explosiveness, and they have good coaching, but it's going to take some time before we see that group come back, I think.
It's just crazy. It's amazing. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? The beauty of high school football that it could be so two polar opposites year to year. I mean, a Super Bowl appearance hung really, really tough against the defending state champions in that game. Went down to the wire against Severian, and then it's just a total reset year for them this year. All right, Brendan, kick out round five.
I think I need a second wide receiver here to close
Yep.
out that room, and I'm going to go with Luke Deftos out of Archbishop Williams. Just when Hudson Garrity's throwing the ball around, he's getting everyone involved, and anyone can have a big game. I think he's due.
Yeah, Archie's obviously brought in a lot of kids this year. The Ledger did a nice story on Luke Deftos. He has been there for some lean years for Archie's, and exciting for him, who's been committed to the program and been a part of it, and now gets to enjoy the success in his senior year. And he's been really, really good. And you're absolutely right, Brendan. It's all hands on deck when Hudson's slinging it around the yard. So I think Luke is sure to get a lock to get involved this week. All right, I also need to close out my wide receiver room. I am going to do so with I'm going to go to the Carver Randolph matchup. I'm going to go with Nolan Keneally. It was in a loss, but I love what we saw from the Crusaders against Cohasset this past week. Hung really, really tough with them for a half, and then just kind of got away from them in the second half. Carver's got a passing offense that's going to allow them to hang with everybody and anybody. I think they're really going to struggle to slow down the ground game from Randolph. So I think they're probably going to be chasing in this one. But I think, their offense is really right now just predicated on moving the ball downfield through the air, and they're going to have to put up some points to try to keep up with Randolph. So I like Nolan to have a big game. I think the whole passing offense for Carver is going to be big in this one. And we kind of talked about on the show this past week between that 8-7 final that just broke the wrong way for them in week one against East Bridgewater, and then a game that we had on WATD Plus 2 weeks ago against Mashpee, where they were really in control and probably should have won the game and let it get away from them in the fourth quarter. Carver's going to be kicking themselves finishing with Cohasset, Randolph, West Bridgewater, three top three teams in Division 7 and 8. There's a good chance they're not going to get that third win, and they're not going to get into the playoffs in their first year moving up to D7. They're at, I think, 14 right now. They'd be about the number 9 team in D8 if they were still back in D8. But even that won't have mattered if they can't get this third win. West Bridgewater is going to be really tough. Neither matchup is great for them. So I feel like this is going to be everything that they have against Randolph this week. So hopefully that means big game for Nolan Keneally. All right, Johnny, close out round five.
Yeah, I need my quarterback. I'm gonna go Colton Ward from Middleborough. I just think that's a team that's been good this year. They've had some ups and downs. It's not an easy game for them. You got Norwalk coming off of a win against Rockland, so they've kind of gotten right after that Abington loss at home. But Middleborough, I mean, they're in a fine spot, but this win would go a long way for them. Colton obviously kind of in charge of that offense, so they're going to need to put up some points against Jack Lucarelli and co on the other side of the ball. So they're going to have to turn it into a shootout if they'd like to take this one home. So that starts with Colton.
Yeah, absolutely. Enormous game for them. We will have it. It is our South Shore game of the week this week on WATD Friday night. And yeah, they're going to need everything from him. Obviously, it's kind of the Wyatt Goyette show on Middleborough's offense, but if Norwell is going to be able to do one thing, it's limit your number one weapon. So I think it's going to impress upon Ward the need to perform in this game. All right, Brendan, that's on to round six, and you're back to the podium. All of us in need of a defense.
I'm going to go back to Archbishop Williams here in their matchup against Bishop Stang. I feel like Stang plays the bad teams to close wins, and then when they face a good team, they struggle mightily. This is a good team in Archie's, and I feel like this is a big win for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think they're going to roll this week. All right, that brings it to me. I'm going to go with the Hanover Hawks. I think that what we've seen from them we talked to some of their seniors after their game against Pembroke and, talked about, okay, well, going into that game, we got to kind of get our act together here coming down the stretch. Offense certainly showed up in that game. Then you go into a game against North Quincy. Showed up in that game. Defense didn't show up against Pembroke, got a little bit better, played pretty well against North Quincy. And then I think it culminated with maybe their best whole performance of the season last week against Plymouth South. The offense was really, really good. The defense was excellent in that game. So I think they keep it rolling. They go into a matchup against a very tough Quincy team, knowing that if they get a win, they clinch a share of the league title. So they'll play with a lot of emotion, and I think that they come out hot against Quincy. All right, Johnny, close it out. Final pick of the draft.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Plymouth South for this one. I just think, I mean, we know Pembroke can put up points, but in the past 2 weeks they haven't. So um, Plymouth South needs a win, and that starts with their defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, probably the wrong way to phrase it with high school football, but you gotta follow the money there, right? Like two consecutive donuts for Pembroke. I believe you personally didn't have success going with somebody against Braintree in this exact scenario in week
Yep.
3 of the season. Maybe this time it pays off for you. While we're there, before I run through everybody's draft, big ups to Johnny again. The magic touch, back to back times. He did it with Marshfield 2 years ago in the playoffs. Again this week, took the Severian defense. On points alone, it was a pretty good pick, and they got the win, beat CM. So if Johnny picks your defense going up against
Are
Catholic
those are the
Memorial,
last two in-state losses that CM team has, correct?
uh,
Yes, I think
yeah,
so.
I think so, because
yeah,
they've
'cause
won
yeah,
19 straight. Yeah.
yeah.
The other
What can
So
I
loss they had
say?
was
What
out
can
of
I
state.
say?
it's not bad. That's not bad. All right, that'll close out our draft. So let me run through it quickly. Brendan out of the top spot. Silver Lake quarterback Sean Barry. Mashpee running back Daniel Alade. Randolph running back Alan Norsica. Your wide receivers out of Situate Miller Shea and out of Archie's Luke Deftos with the Archie's defense. I had Whitman Hanson quarterback Jack Martin. My running backs PJ Ravecchio out of Hull and Brandon Sacco out of Hanover. My wide receivers Jake Lofstrom out of Silver Lake and Nolan Keneally out of Carver with the Hanover defense. And Johnny, your quarterback, Colton Ward out of Middleborough, running backs, Ethan O'Connell out of Archie's, and Tommy Polidori out of West Bridgewater, along with your wide receiver, Shane McDonald out of Plymouth South, and Tim Mills out of Weymouth, and the Plymouth South defense. All right, that wraps it for us here on the Week 8 fantasy draft. Thursday night, the battle at the border, Rockland and Abington, 7 p.m. start, WATD Plus. Cannot wait for that one. Rockland looks resurgent. They've given a lot of good teams really tough games. I think this one's going to have a little bit of juice to it. Always does in a rivalry game. That's Thursday night. And then Friday night, our South Shore game of the week, as we mentioned earlier, Norwell versus Middleborough. It is the second to last week of the regular season. A lot on the line for all of these teams. Should be a really, really fun week. For Brendan and Johnny, I'm Quinn. We will see you next time on the WATD Fantasy Draft. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter @SE on WATD. We'll see you next time.